Okay, so I have to warn you now, this conversation is going to be a bit controversial for many of you, but stick with me and you just might get a glimpse over the horizon. So, for a while now, there's been mad consolidation going on in the AI on device race. Now, many of you may not have been paying close attention, but I have, and it's time you do too. So Arvind Srinivas, CEO of Perplexity AI, posted this on X on the 10th of July. He said Chrome shouldn't be forced as a default browser on Android. Remember, Perplexity just launched a much anticipated AI browser named Comet. So Arvind and Perplexity are also at the heart of this massive AI on device consolidation race. So in April this year, Perplexity announced a global partnership with Motorola where the Perplexity AI app and assistant would be pre-installed on millions of Motorola devices. There's also a huge buzz about a similar deal with Samsung, which of course would be massive for Perplexity. And now there's a brand new player coding Perplexity. Apple is reportedly exploring an acquisition of Perplexity AI as it's been struggling with its in-house AI development program. And if this does happen, it would go a long, long way in transforming Safari into an AI native browser and helping Apple catch up with all the competition from Android players. But that's not all. Hold on to your AI hats. There's a surprise twist coming up. I've got Brian Wang with me today. Brian is a futurist thought leader and runs the prominent science blog nextbigfuture.com. Welcome, Brian. Great to have you back.
Great to be here, Royden.
So, Brian, just set us off by giving us your 35,000-foot view of this AI on-device race before we get into the more granular details, so to speak.
So, I have a 35-foot view of this, looking at where we are with the AI devices, and in particular the multimodal capabilities. I think it have a revolution in voice, as well as the potential of finally making the Google Glass or visual displays, wearable visual displays, really work well, and also the volumes of things. It will also be a look at the enterprise versus consumer aspect, because that also is a key difference. And there's integration with SpaceX connectivity, where it'll be adding, SpaceX will be going direct satellite to cell phone. They've already started doing that for text latter half of this year. Now we're in the latter half. We'll start seeing that for internet data and for also voice communication. So integration. So you have the new models coming up. We just had Grok 4, a new best model just a couple of days ago. We have OpenAI coming up soon this summer with GPT-5, and sometime in the next few months also a Google Gemini 3 is anticipated. And all these things will look to integrate with devices. We're getting to next levels of voice capabilities. Like I said, also the augmented reality glasses, and the multimodal capabilities, voice, sound, images, real-time data. All that is going to get really, really good with the next model. They're already quite capable for many, but you're going to have a fully integrated multimodal foundational model is what I'm anticipating. And then for devices, I often think about it in terms of the volumes of devices. One, the volumes where we are now, the volumes of how fast the new versions will replace the old versions, and then any step change in terms of breakout devices. One, with some devices may need more compute and more memory, and we'll see how well the industry can provide that. And then the aspect of killer applications and devices. What would be something that would really transform where we are now, not just a little bit better, but really totally change our lives in terms of what that capability is. So here's a little table looking at that. So we have each of the next models that we expect coming out, and then there'll be a Grok 5 as well, and so this continues.
So we know that the Grok 4, Elon said within the next week or so, they'll add it into the cars. So that's a huge integration, because that's, there'll be nearly 10 million Tesla cars on the road by the end of this year. And one of the big things will be getting these things into the high volume devices in our homes and that one that we wear. Grok doesn't have that yet, but I'm anticipating that will happen at some point, which we can discuss later. And then OpenAI is Johnny Ive device, which some people think will be some kind of like hockey puck type thing that people just move around. And then putting that into a phone. They're talking about making a phone with the Johnny Ive's device from OpenAI, which likely will integrate with the GPT-5. Google Gemini. Google has been working with Google Glasses and their Android phones for a long time. And we'll see where that goes. This is just an overview of that. But when they can make that really, really work well, that'd be huge. And then Anthropic and some of the others are also working on it. And then, so in terms of the volumes, 2 billion cars, 100 million are being added each year, but only a small fraction are getting the smart capability so far. But it will happen that it'll get completely there. Getting better hands-free integration with the features on your car, because currently, like in Tesla, you have to push a lot of buttons to do things. Having that voice activated would be huge.
Yeah,
and it will make
massive
Robotaxi FSD a lot better, because right now you'll say, hey, pull over, stop, do something. Someone without a steering wheel would be able to voice control their Robotaxi. So that's is a capability that we'll likely see more in Austin. Phones, 6 billion total, 2 billion per year or so. They're, the epicenter of our device experience is the phones. So of course that getting the killer apps and getting the transformational capabilities is huge. Like doing just incremental things that people have been doing so far is not been as transformative yet. I'm expecting things to really come together. Whether that will Johnny Ive be the one who does it again, where he did a lot with smartphones. That's something, a deeper discussion that we go in after I go over this overview. Humanoid bots is the one that's coming up, getting to thousands of bots this year, and then 2-3 years getting to millions of bots. Bots will be huge because, one, they have the capability to do actual movement and of things in our real world, warehouses, factories, as well as they have the chips that will be, they have 3 times the power. They have, 30 times the power of our laptops. 100 watts in our laptops versus 3,000 watts for most of the humanoid bots. So that means you can power more chips as well as other devices. And China has a lot of big players over there to try and make, like high volume numbers, Unitree and others over there. The home voice assistants, they'll be transformed. Right now we have Alexa and other devices in our homes that we activate with our voice. Getting really good smart devices that integrate with our appliances, where we can order things around, that will be key. Grok 4 supposedly has, in a few months, we'll have really good integration with better tools. They've been thinking tools and integration as a key component of that. So we'll want to see, there'll probably need to be standards around that, like making devices that can integrate. But then if you just have voice, if it's like, just like voice could be like Bluetooth, in that so long as you can hear and react to a voice input, then you could have a device. But a completely smart home via AI voice would be an end goal for all these devices.
Can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
Yeah. So it just strikes me, and as a user, I've used Alexa for years now, and using Grok. In fact, I was lucky enough to be amongst the first wave to get access to Comet, which is the AI browser from Perplexity. OpenAI Perplexity which gives you access to pretty much every respectable AI model out there. But I just feel just so distributed. I feel as if my entire experience as a user is kind of in these silos that don't talk to each other very well. Do you think
Right.
do you think that there's a possibility that as Grok evolves, or as OpenAI evolves, Perplexity evolves, we're going to get an ecosystem that just kills all these silos, and you go seamlessly through your entire life's experience with one or another AI model or AI solution?
Yes, I think that that would be the integrated seamless experience is something that you see had value, I see has value, and that we will want to get that to happen. When people go into the Tesla Robotaxi in Austin, their settings and stuff transfer from their phone into the car when they get in. So seat settings, music settings, other things like that, seamlessly transfer. So the your personal smart context needs to move around with you. You don't want to have the silos like you're saying. So that definitely is one of the experiential goals. That it's like it makes no sense that we don't have that.
I'm also concerned about data, my data. And I would rather trust one company and hold one company accountable for my data rather than have to chase around different companies.
Right. So that seemed like a difficult thing to do, but so different people currently will be using favoring different AIs, right? Like some people are all into OpenAI, GPT-4, whatever, and others are are Grok users, others are other users, and they're accumulating data. So how but you want to share a certain amount. So that goes the tension of the two things. One, you want integrated experience. Two, you want data privacy. So those things are in tension, right? But there needs to be a smart sharing of information that is convenient for you. Like you want to have a setting to say how much to share that is smart and works versus right now we have these, if you want to use this website, you automatically got to give them everything and share everything, and they start taking stuff with cookies and all that kind of thing, right? So that has to be something that works better. By default, we're heading towards something where whatever AI app or device, if you really want to use it, it'll say, "Give me all your data," right? And it'll ask for it. And right now, if that you can't conveniently get the setting, your choice is use and share or don't use and don't share.
Yeah.
So then what's the in between, and how can we, with AI, with intelligence, you should be able to make an intelligent choice and negotiate that. So I should have a negotiator of data sharing where I say, here's how I want to share, and only give them what it absolutely needs. So I need to be able to have a trusted negotiator for me. Right.
And an entity, an AI entity or a solution that will keep my data secure, because there have been so many data breaches, right everywhere, like from your banking to your Netflix subscriptions to like everything that you do, right?
Right.
So it's just, well, it's wishful thinking perhaps at the moment, but let's see as it evolves.
Well, that goes to the trusted thing of like, I will trust something that negotiates well for me.
Exactly.
So we will try to move towards that. And then the other things will also, the bad actors will always be trying to suck out more than you want to give them.
Yeah. And I would trust an AI to be able to deal with this, in a respectable AI like Grok or OpenAI or anything that you use, Claude, etc., to do a better job at keeping me safe than I could perhaps in any way. All right, let's get back to your deck. Take us through.
Sure. Okay, and it's only like a 4 or 5 more slides. So wearables, the dominant wearable is the watch, right? So far more of that. The other next one might be the AirPods type devices. So there's there's all kinds of different form factors for wearables, but there's the 2 or 3 dominant ones, and then the emerging AR VR glasses. Right. So those are kind of like the 3 main ways. And then people are talking about pins or things to carry and that kind of stuff. And there are a lot of people walking around with AirPods or similar devices in their ears, and there's people walking around with a lot of watches. Um, these devices have been hindered by the fact that they tend to have less power and memory than the phones. The glasses, you need to have devices that have really high resolution. There's some that give you the illusion of looking at a 100-foot screen or 100-inch screen. So that's the promise of that. But the weight and the other things, it hasn't quite hit the breakthrough utility on that. So then the question of actual use case need versus so we haven't delivered on the promise of that yet. So maybe AI can make that fill that gap.
Right.
But the revolution in the multimodal, the voice, the sound, and wearables, things could come together. People could see that this could also come together and be really, really useful and good. We have not seen that next step in capabilities yet. Like I said, with the integration with SpaceX, SpaceX also has a factory where they're making all kinds of devices. Right now, different kinds of dishes, like a portable dish that's the size of a small iPad, and then the regular dishes that people know about. So as the satellites get bigger, they can make the dish components smaller, and then we have the direct to cell phone capability. But they have massive PCBs, so printed circuit boards. The facility that SpaceX has in Texas is the largest one in the United States for printed circuit boards. So that means more kind of devices coming there, and we'll discuss what other surprises might come from SpaceX and the Tesla economy. So we have enterprise versus consumer devices. There's what's good for a meeting, what's good for business productivity, versus what's entertainment and daily uses. So those use cases.
Huge market.
Yeah. So just some initial breakdown of it, like personal productivity, business productivity, casual conversations, workflow, workspaces versus phone things, and then the AI agent integration. There's a lot more enterprise software that we want to have integration with. And then the future outlook, creating ecosystems, gaining the scale, privacy bias we discussed, and then gain the full ubiquity of coming, where it becomes a daily part of our lives. I'm of the belief that the home and the personal device, we can get the new device like the human bought because of the need for petaflops of compute and a lot more energy that you can't really solve. The fact that I can have a lot more energy from a device walking around carrying 10 kilos of batteries is something that goes to, well, it should walk itself. If I have to carry it myself.
It just transforms the onboard computing capabilities.
Right. So that's why these will be another device, the R2D2, the C3PO thing, because it carrying around the compute I need.
So just a couple of takeaways from this deck that you've taken us through. It seems that we're evolving these mini ecosystems, right? So Apple has its established ecosystem.
Yep.
Right. You're seeing kind of Samsung / Google / Microsoft in the process of developing theirs. And then you have the entire Elon ecosystem, which is, your Robotaxi, Optimus, your various apps on the phones, etc. And we get a little bit, without giving too much away, because we're going to get into that a little later. But how do you see these ecosystems evolving and mergers and acquisitions across the board? Do you think there's room for multiple players, or maybe 2 or 3 major players globally?
There will be multiple players, but as in all things, power laws and all that kind of stuff, there'll be, 2 or 3, one dominant player will likely emerge, but then because there's multiple different devices, one player could dominate smartphones, one player could dominate humanoid bots, one player could dominate the cars, right? Or you could have one player in 2 or 3 areas. So because there's multiple silos of devices, then you have the chance for multiple players to dominate. Can one player get super killer voice AI integration that makes it even more dominant? I think that yes, that is possible. And that's the prize for all these things, to give you enough value where its voice, its AI gives you a better experience, where it doesn't win everything, but it wins a lot more.
Right. I think there's no winner takes all kind of situation, but you'll have like leaders with their individual advantages. This is where I see, I think the major players emerging would be Apple, because they've got their entire ecosystem already ready. The question is whether, they take over, they acquire a Perplexity, or they do something else. And then you've got like Samsung / Google / Microsoft, but then Google and Microsoft are more towards, and let's include also Zoom, but these are more towards business solutions rather than like personal solutions. And then, of course, you've got this new kid on the block, which is kind of started last, which is XAI, and then they're just taking over the race, with Grok 4 now being the most powerful. Okay, so you've got some interesting info for us with the TSMC chips numbers, right? Can you just take us through that? I'm adding this.
So this is the Taiwan Semiconductor, who makes 95% or more of the GPUs. So they make most of the advanced chips in the world. This is from their April Tech Symposium. So they give an annual symposium talking about their technology and where they see this going. The slide has some flaws to it, but the bottom row there with the green line is 5 million units going to 50 million units. This is their production of AI GPUs, the one that's going into the data centers. So they're saying at this time there were about 5 million. Actually, the recent numbers I hear is there was 4 million last year, and then 7 million this year. Of the 7 million this year of the B200s, B300s, with some H200s and H100s there in the mix.
That's the NVIDIA chips. Yeah.
And the NVIDIA chips. But they make them also for other. They also make the Dojo chips. They print other chips for other players, and then they're projecting to get to 50 million, so 10 times as many by 2030. So they're projecting, and they're the ones getting the orders for making, new NVIDIA chips, new AMD chips, new other chips, new Chinese chips, as well as the new XAI chips. So they're projecting, 10 times as many by 2030. And then above that is AI PCs. They're projecting that they will up level GPUs in PCs from about 100 million this year up to nearly triple, 280 million by 2030. So this would be, more and more people having GPUs in their laptops or other devices or servers. It could also be a new category like home servers. You're already seeing attempts at that with the Apple Minis and those kind of things. And then there'll be smartphones where we will up level the chips in our phones, 200 million per year. They think they're going to 1 billion, so 5 times as many. And then they expect the AR VR to get to 50 million. So some kind of devices there. And then Robotaxi, they're thinking 2.5 million, and human bots 2.5 million around 2030. All these things they expect to be $1 trillion markets going forward, not necessarily all at 2030. Yeah. So
interesting. So what do you make of the comparison between on-device inference and cloud inference in the cloud based on these numbers?
Yeah, so they're saying here that they're bringing more inference to you locally, because they're saying each one of the things is a chip. So either you're doing a lot more inference and having a lot more memory locally, or you're sharing that, interfacing with the cloud with some level of local compute. The fact that you're getting more better chips with more memory would lend itself to having a more capable purely local device. So I see that as a trend where it's like I would want to have more power locally. That even if things could work great in the cloud, if the communication just wasn't working quite as well as it needs to be, you'd want to have the option of more and more power locally. They can get a better experience from that. So it's just how much can we deliver locally, because it does mean a lot of device upgrades, a lot of extra cost and power. But I see this as industrial revolution 2.0, 5.0, whatever, where we're going to get just every industrial revolution just needs more power. So again, the long-term view is that we're going to go 10x, 100x the power.
Yeah. So TSMC is the company to be invested in.
Among many. Among many.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's look at the next layer that we've got planned out. Okay. So this is Arvind's post, and it's interesting because when you look at the reports around Apple's interest in Perplexity and what an acquisition of Perplexity would mean for Safari, the Apple browser, you have to wonder if Arvind is smartly trying to pit Samsung against Apple in a bidding war. What's your take?
That if you can create the value from an AI native browser, then that's a path to one. You can just pop your browser onto any device, so it's a path to winning all devices. And the fact that he wants to get to higher number of users by saying, hey, you're locking in, you're favoring your device, your browser. It's not fair for me to grow. It suppresses competitors by doing that. So the medium-sized players, and I consider Perplexity a medium-sized player, not a big player, because they can't make their own devices. Then they're saying, give me access. If I have a really great thing, let my customers get access to it easily, where they don't have the barrier of having to download and switch to my my device. And particularly if you make it really hard for me to switch out your browser or other things like that. But it goes to then the big players, your Metas, your XAI, Tesla, something like that, will want to control and produce the device. So if they can get it so that you buy, the Apple Watch, the other thing, that's why Apple has control, because they can say, Google, you want to be the search engine, pay me tens of billions of dollars to be that thing, right? If you control the device, you can say, I control the gateway, right? So there's the hardware physical gateway, and then there's a browser OS type gateways, right? So if you're up one layer, you're at that, from the physical to the whatever, the AI, the foundational AI, whatever, then you can get more control to these billions of devices. So that's the battle they have. So they have to play this, lawsuit of let me have access thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's this comment below that post from Arvind that said that Google built Android and gives it away free, making their own browser the default feels like a normal call, especially when you call when you can install any other browser in seconds. It does seem as if Google is getting a bad deal here.
Well,
kind of feel sorry for them.
Well, they have the one to control. They have to be forced to give up their position, right?
Yeah.
Because if I, just like Apple and them, if you have enough control by being central to the ecosystem, making the foundational layers, then you have more control. And it's only national legal forces that can make you give it up, or something so good that people start abandoning your platform.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's just you just have to keep up with the competition. You just can't let your guard down, especially at this time.
Right.
All right. So we've been focusing mostly on kind of the usual suspects, right, in the Western Hemisphere. But I think we should not forget the Chinese market, right? You have major players like Huawei, Oppo, Honor.
Xiaomi,
so they've been pumping, Xiaomi, of course, another massive player. They've been pumping billions into integrating AI into their devices and building AI ecosystems. So Huawei has developed, I think, AI-infused mobile devices. with their own in-house chips. Oppo's taking this agentic route. Honor's investing about $10 billion. I think it's 5 years, and then in the alpha plan is what they called it, to build an AI ecosystem with agentic capabilities. So how do you kind of view this contrast between the Chinese players and, let's say, Apple, Google, OpenAI / Microsoft / Samsung?
Well, clearly, any player that totally wins in China can get up can get up to $1 billion volume, right? So if you so they are ones that can get.
There's one caveat here that I think it's important to note, that the Chinese players are also really, really big in other massive markets across South Asia, right? Like India is one of the biggest mobile markets. And Oppo, Honor, Xiaomi, these are all really, really big players.
Right. And where they're not blocked out, like back in the day, I would definitely have gotten a Xiaomi or Huawei phone, because it was just 4 times less expensive, and far better Android experience than any other phone. Better than the Samsung phone, better than the Google phone. But you couldn't use them or buy them in for the United States, right? Because they had the barriers to that. So then they can win the China market, and they can win the some of the European markets and some of the other countries' markets where they're not being actively blocked because of governmental support or regulations supporting them. But in terms of like a pure quality of device, feature by feature, they had been superior device, and also cheaper. So they are very, very strong players in all those devices. So from that base, their AI should be competitive as well. And then the integration of those things will be very powerful. So I expect them to be highly competitive, and but I expect that the phone dynamic of geopolitics around phone devices to continue forward into the AI device integrated future world.
Do you see Huawei having a kind of a slight advantage, or because they've already started working? I mean, they already have their own AI chip on their devices. Does that give them much of a lead over the others?
Yeah, that makes them very strong. They're pushing ahead, I think, to sub 7 nanometer chips and other things, and so they are consistently strong. The question, I think, is Huawei is not. I think Xiaomi and some of the others might be hungrier, better, more aggressive founders, that kind of thing. So, there's, which doesn't mean that Huawei wouldn't necessarily fall behind, but there is some kind of like old company, stuff.
Complacency.
Yeah, just not quite as innovative in some ways. But they are a strong competitor, and they can still overcome that capability. So I wouldn't count them out because they have the advantage you discussed in terms of chips and hardware. The integration gives them advantage. Plus, they always a partner with other hot players.
Right.
So they're kind of like they're kind of like TSMC that way, in that TSMC may not make the device themselves, but because they're making the enabling capability, then that forces them to be in the game.
Yeah. Very true. All right. It's time for that plot twist that I promised. It's somewhat controversial, but stick with me. The more you look at this consolidation that we've been talking about, Brian and I, the more this seems rather inevitable. So what am I talking about? Well, Grok 4 that we were just mentioning, the most powerful AI model in the world, that's just been released. Elon said Grok 4 is going into Tesla cars soon. X is getting into payments big time. Starlink is maturing fast with millions of global users and a presence in over 140 countries and territories, I think Elon just said. Is it time for Elon to bring out a mobile devices that brings everything together? Grok, Robotaxi app, Starlink, all on one device with global mobility. Is this inevitable? Brian, what's your hot take?
Yes, I think it's inevitable. It's just a matter of time, either late this year or next year. I would think, based on my over and under, I would think Q1, Q2 of next year would be when that would make sense. When they go full internet to cell phone device, then they would want to roll that out. If they have issues with the roll integration with T-Mobile and other stuff, getting to hundreds of millions of devices, they may have to wait a bit, toward the second half of next year to do it. But if I have a inexpensive device, a phone that I can make 100 million to billions, there's still the underserved people in Africa and Asia, a billion devices. So if you can make an inexpensive phone at $20, $50 a device, $20 being the better price point, then you could,
and a native AI device,
right, and then you could provide your direct to a cell phone communication from Starlink to a billion devices. So instantly they get to a billion volume. You can start with an expensive device and then go all over, which would run kind of counter to some of Elon's prior things, which is come in with a premium device and then go down market. To come in at the lower level is less of a thing. But then having the direct communication to cars means that the premium experience could be in the 10 million, 20 million cars. And then and having that.
And you have a massive volume in a low-cost device.
Right. And then have a low-cost device. So it could be from both ends, right? But definitely them with the Starlink means that they can get to a billion, maybe even 2 billion people with a smartphone that other guys cannot. They cannot get the wiring into Africa, to Asia, other places. It's been decades where they could not get that market served. Certain rural areas, they can. There is a market that is for SpaceX to take, which is this unserved or underserved 1 billion, 2 billion people, rural, poor countries that don't have that capability. And with the new power increase, the FCC in March lets them increase the power transmission by 10 times. They can get to 5G there. So they can just get a really, really high quality experience where it's like everyone can get to 100 megabits per second.
And this is with the existing Starlink constellation. We're not talking about the next gen that depends on Starship.
Right. It's something that can get to that capability. Although there is, they need to get more of the direct to cell phone capable satellites up there because 10 times more bandwidth, able to serve a lot more people and that kind of stuff. But they could get 3G, 4G capability to huge numbers of people.
Yeah, I mean, which in itself is a completely massive market disruptor if you think about it. If you have a low-cost device that can access even 3G, 4G. I mean, if you look at Africa, there's well over a billion users there potentially. If you look at India, and that's where Starlink has just entered, and they've tied up with Vodafone. Sorry, not Vodafone, but Reliance, Jio, and Airtel. It seems like that's another massive market waiting to be completely disrupted.
Right.
Your suggestion and of your thoughts on the low-cost device disrupting the market just got me thinking about. So Reliance Jio has been one of the biggest players in the Indian telecom market, and they were a very late and they made a very late entry to the market, but they completely disrupted the market with their devices, which were dirt cheap compared to others. And also they offered next to free data.
Right.
So they just captured the entire market. It was a controversial move, but hey, it's business, and they just powered through, and they've completely upended everybody, even established players like Vodafone Idea in India. So there is precedence for this, right?
Right. And if you think about if the prize is AI and super AI, right? Now, by the way, I'm also writing a book with Randy Kirk on super AI, super intelligence, the world there. So if that's the ultimate prize, then the data and the relationship with more people is better. So they could lock up 2 billion people and have their data, have their experience. Like you talked about the data aspect of it, that they could totally lock that up. So in terms of like the inevitability of it, for the data, for the number of users, for the lock-in, it's like it's too big a prize to ignore. And then from there, from the 2 billion, you also are going from the top end of 20 billion cars, 20 billion robotaxi people, increasing that to 100 million.
Yeah.
And then you get everyone and everything,
Yeah.
right?
And in markets like Africa and Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, the robotaxi factor is going to be a bigger player than the cars themselves, the Tesla sales of cars themselves.
Right. Although the robotaxi penetration has some issues because in Asia, because it's so cheap in China and Thailand, because it's less than $1 per mile, because the people can work so inexpensively that you have to get to that 50 cent per mile level to really have penetration. There are countries at the dollar per mile level, and you can get a lot of stuff there. Plus, you can also get a lot from trucking. But in terms of your system has to go high volume and work really, really well to break through that 50 cent, which would happen I would project in about 3 years. So it's coming, but it would be after deep penetration in the United States and North American markets.
There's one more market waiting to be disrupted in these markets, and that's payments.
Right.
And that's a huge market for Africa, South Asia. If you can reliably move money across, and if you can build an ecosystem through X that connects with robotaxi and everything else that Elon's companies have to offer, that's another big vertical for earnings.
Right. For the African Asian market, the people are not just without as good communication, unphoned, but they're unbanked in other places. You're getting some banking crypto try to get there, but it's something where it's still underserved for sure. And so getting that complete capability, one is more financial data, purchasing data, other stuff like that, but also getting everyone into the modern world and to get that lock in, and also to have a bridge over to crypto. That
Absolutely.
So you have a decentralized
Doge,
finance.
do you think Dogecoin is going to become a big thing?
Some version of stablecoin makes more sense than a Doge. Maybe they'll have a Doge variant that's a stable coin, but it would seem like you would want that. But I haven't used Doge as much. Elon likely haven't talked about it recently, but probably have options of multiple coins.
No, anything that is a version of a stable coin makes more sense because it's linked to real world value, whether it's linked to gold or precious metals or the dollar or whatever. And I think, Brian, these are really important layers to think about, because I feel often there's too much of a focus on America. It's a big world out there.
Right.
And Elon's companies serve this entire world.
Right,
it's just there are massive markets. So it's not just America and China. You have the Middle East again, where I'm based, which is another massive market waiting to be disrupted by a robotaxi.
Right.
Many of the Falcon economies here in the Middle East already have really forward-looking autonomous vehicle policies in place. So I'm just waiting. I mean, you've got Archer Aviation and Joby that just conducted trial flights in the UAE. So they're looking at multimodal autonomous travel. So it's really exciting. What, in your opinion, Brian, is the limiting factor for an X phone? Is it manufacturing a low-cost device? Is it direct to sell with the number of Starlinks that could support it up in orbit? Is it a supply chain issue? What's the limiting factor?
It seems like Elon always wants complete vertical integration, and because he could have done a deal with Apple or Android and gotten one of the Android players and gotten to high volumes of devices, a Samsung and that kind of thing. But I think he wants to make his own phones. He wants to own the hardware and work with suppliers to do that. So he's taking a slightly longer road to get to 1 billion devices. But that getting to 1 billion devices, getting to that scale, comparable to the top current players, Apple, Samsung, Huawei, Xiaomi, and that kind of stuff. Getting to that volume is because he wants to do it all himself, is my guess. Then that will take a bit longer.
Yeah.
There are shortcuts to it. It just doesn't seem like he's willing to take a shortcut alliance thing to do it. But I could be wrong. We'll see if some announcement comes around.
It's interesting, because you have the device first and then you build the ecosystem through the App Store. But here it seems as if he's building the ecosystem first.
Right.
And then he could just launch a device at any moment to just have it seamlessly integrate right across everything.
Right. But he will work with some other device component makers. It's a question of like how the negotiations work and how does he get to 100 million devices and do that. And then so like Robotaxi, he could have gotten, I think, and I've argued that he could have gotten a lot bigger if he had integrated, he had gone mix of human driver and no human driver. That he could get a volume of players. Like there are probably a few 100,000 Tesla cars that are in the Uber network right now.
Yeah.
So he could just say, "Hey, come on over. You can drive your cars, thing, and then you'll become whatever." So he could have gotten to, 1,000 times the scale, like that. But he didn't choose to do that yet. That could still happen. I would prefer to see that happen because I think there's still a resistance from half the people who don't want to go.
Yeah.
If your thing works, I still want to go to a human driver, right?
Yeah.
So, how much they accommodate, but I think Elon can be very stubborn and will say, "Screw it, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to this other path." So, so that goes to.
There's an added benefit of this of having human drivers bring in their Tesla cars from the Uber network to the Robotaxi network, and that is that the opportunity cost of getting them to then switch over to driverless and then be owners of fleets or owners of service centers, that becomes a lot more seamless.
Right.
And then you scale up. Because there are a lot of people, as you rightly said, who may not be comfortable with the driverless car right now.
Right.
And it just builds adoption at a whole new level.
Right. And also it's a bunch of more rides for people who haven't experienced the Tesla yet. So I said huge advantages to doing that. I will see next year or like they're expanding the Austin service area this weekend or this week and next week. And then there's reports of them going to Arizona, California, and other parts of Texas as well. So you can get to
the Arizona filing was really interesting. It looks as if they're looking at Arizona before California.
Mm-hmm. Phoenix is just an easy place to do Robotaxi. Sunny all the time, and the roads are really good. It's just a easy Robotaxi location. So Arizona is just easy to drive in. So it's just it's already they're accepted regulating wise. So it's just an easy location to do.
I'm just curious if they're already working behind the scenes on the Phoenix kind of a grid, because when they were working towards Austin, they drilled down on the Austin grid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at outliers and to kind of smoothen out the FSD model for Austin.
Yeah. So in their hiring career sites, they have a bunch of job postings for data collection in these 5 or 6 states, Florida, Arizona, whatever. So they're definitely, if they haven't started already, which I would think that they should have, they're doing it soon. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I can't wait till Elon releases a phone, to be honest.
Right. Right.
I would just bring everything together,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it just make life so much simpler.
Yeah. I would be shocked if they do not have a phone at high volume by the end of next year. I would be shocked if they haven't done that yet.
I'm so thrilled to hear you say that, Brian,
Yeah.
because this has been part of conspiracy theories for too long, and it just doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
it just makes sense. It's just
Right.
common sense.
Right. Right.
You know?
And just the need in order to win
Yeah.
the AI device battle is something that's like you're tying one arm behind your back if you don't have it. It's just too much of a vulnerability to not prioritize that move, because it is billions of devices, not for the money per se, but for the strategic win. It's like you're looking at World War II and saying, okay, well, you haven't had your D-Day invasion yet. You haven't created your Atlantic front. It's like strategically necessary. You make that. You have to open that front. Yeah.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Mhm.
Well, Brian, it's lovely to have you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time. I thoroughly enjoy our conversations because they just,
Yeah.
I look at them as more as brainstorming sessions, and it's so
Right.
much of fun talking to you always.
Yeah. I
I hope
enjoyed
to
a
have you
lot too.
back soon, but thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.